Good afternoon and praise God. We are privileged and delighted again to have this show, Friday Conversations with Reverend Alan. Thank you so much, Reverend Alan, for giving us the privilege in your show. And kindly we welcome you and you tell us what we are about to handle this particular day.
Thank you so much for this day that God has given us. Remember, we've been handling silent battles, the war that we are having in our lives, but we cannot share with people. And today we want to handle a topic that by name is more psychological and more counseling, not so much pastoral, but by practice and by situation is so much pastoral. We are handling a topic called post-traumatic stress disorder. That is the topic that we are handling.
Thank you. So we want to handle PTSD, and on our show we are privileged to have a great panel today. From my far, just next to Reverend Alan, we are always privileged to have you, Reverend Nicholas, Vika Bellgood, SEK Parish. Karibu so much.
Thank you.
Again, we have in the show our counselor, psychology, can do your bets. It's always good to have you. Karibu.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Our wonderful lady here, Janet Surum Kiplagat, worked with us since the show began. It's always a privilege to have you too. Thank you. So we continue with this show, and I want to welcome the panelists just to discuss this silent battle. We've talked about jealousy, pride, lies, secrets, and now we are handling PTSD. Now I want to invite you all just to, by definition, what is PTSD? I want to welcome Janet to begin with us.
First of all, thank you again for having us, and thank you, Pastor, for bringing mental health closer home. And PTSD is a mental illness, just like so many others, and it is actually an illness that results from experiencing an event, a situation that is shocking. It can be scary, it can be dangerous. So if someone experiences a situation that has been shocking, scary, dangerous, it may lead to PTSD.
What about you, Kendua? What is your understanding of PTSD?
My understanding of PTSD is just as close as it has been said. It is when someone experiences, a life-threatening situation or a life-changing moment, most times, almost every time, negative. Yes. If we experience something wonderful, we cannot classify it as a traumatic disorder. It is most times associated with a negative experience. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Vika, as from a pastoral point of view, what is your understanding of PTSD?
Well, the definition is in the name itself. And it's a long name. But then the final word, disorder, is the one. Actually, when one is stressed, and we all need to cope with stresses. But then if you lose that ability to cope with that stress, and the stress which is kind of caused by a traumatic event, then that is when we talk about a disorder. And so it's a kind of a burden and a kind of a pain that one goes through.
Thank you. Yes, Reverend Alan.
Actually, three days ago, my Facebook memory popped out the accident that I was involved in, I think 2 years ago, and I had posted the car and all the things, what I went through in that day, and I began to experience some pain again, some feeling of anger, some feeling of regret, anxiety, some kind of fear. And I didn't share it with anybody, but it attacked me for some time. I began to breathe so heavily. Actually, I had to come and take some time in prayer and trying to speak to myself. And I discovered that I still relive the memories of the accident. And as we speak about post-traumatic stress disorder, I would easily relate in the stress that extreme stress that I went through after the accident. The continuous fear, it took long for me to drive the car. Continuous fear in the night. dreams that are so stressful, sleepless nights. It's like my being was not able to manage what I went through, even though I came out of the accident, but looks like I continued to live in the accident. That is what we are discussing today as I speak about post-traumatic stress disorder. This disorder, my inability to manage the stress as a result of that trauma. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we've had it from negative experiences, extreme pain that could not be handled, the disability, and then Reverend Nicholas has spoken about having that disorder by itself of not handling. But something interesting that is coming to me in my mind is this post-traumatic. It's an event that actually has been prolonged or it has taken too long. And maybe some people don't understand PTSD in people don't really understand. I've seen in the last 2 months people making awareness of PTSD on social platforms. But I want us to handle this word post. What makes it to be a post?
Actually, it's a post because it occurs after a traumatic event. So it means that someone cannot just have, for example, what Reverend is talking about. He could not say that in that moment of the accident or 2 days after that he had PTSD. No one could diagnose him with PTSD because it takes at least 3 months for PTSD, for something to be, for a disorder, for that disorder to be classified as PTSD. But not only 3 months, after 3 months, you must have the symptoms for 1 month continuous.
Really?
Yes.
So it's something that we call it post because after 3 months, now you begin to classify it. Is it true, Kendio?
Yes, in fact, she said exactly what I had in mind. You know, it will not come immediately. As Pastor was sharing about the accident, it reminded me of one I was involved in with a cousin of mine. It did not come immediately. I laughed about it. 3 days later, still okay. Until months down the line is when I started, getting, I'll not really call it a serious disorder, but a mild form of it. For example, driving, I love driving, but it came to a point whereby I was hypervigilant, You're so keen. To date, I still fight that thing. Someone carries me. I normally have an issue with my wife. When she drives, I tell her, Maona, yo gari. My dad drives me. I'm like, have you seen that? Because I feel I should be the guardian because of what happened. Because my cousin was driving. Yes, I should be in control. Yes, so it does not, as she said, it doesn't come immediately. It takes time, then it starts manifesting, it disrupts your everyday life, it disrupts the way you think, the way you relate. There's basically a change both in your body and your mind.
Thank you.
Yes.
From pastoral point of view, you've had them classifying it after 3 months. So as a pastor, somebody comes to you, how do you now begin to handle this as a PTSD?
Yes, for me is that if we talk as pastors and looking at that disorder, and as it, for me, it depends on how a person is, in terms of if you are the one who went through the traumatic event, then it depends on how you are now reacting to that kind of a trauma. But if it is someone else who went through a kind of an event, which means it is you indirectly, then again it depends on how you are countering that. But for me, from the point of being a pastor, is that bringing in God in this issue is that if it was a life-threatening event, and you are talking of someone saved me, and that someone is God, then from that point is that we need to be crediting God for that. And so we need to be handling a person and directing to that person who actually saved and who actually helps you to go through. And bringing from Matthew 11:28, come unto me, all of you. Yes, that burden which a person is going through is when now we can be talking about somebody should be casting that burden towards a particular person as you walk through the valley of that trauma.
And you, Reverend Alan, I think from a pastoral point of view, when I come to you, how do you classify a person with PTSD?
I deal mostly with prayer and deliverance. And the best part of my calling is to bring liberty to our people so that they may live freely without any baggages in their lives, things that are pulling them back. And there are times people come, even in school ministry, I've seen this. You find somebody experiencing some abnormal fear. You don't see what should be making them to be fearful at that particular environment. Sometimes people are anxious, or they just behave abnormally out of the normal. A certain girl in a certain school just one day decided to run away and disappeared like for 2 days. Then she was found. And even in the church here, sometimes you discover the struggles of an individual that you can neither classify it as spiritual or anything that you know, because maybe you didn't even see them going through the problem. So many a times, in fact, I try to look for a history and discover what is the cause of this situation. And many times somebody will tell you, when I was a baby, I was raped by an elder. And the thing keeps on coming to me, fear, anxiety, and all those things. Somebody will tell you, when I was young, at some point in my life, I saw somebody getting killed. So those are trauma that was so strong, and their mind could not handle it at that time. That's now we begin to handle them and to bring them back to where they were, so that we work with them out of it, both biblically and also psychologically. You remember, I normally speak of a story of a professor that would do everything well, but when it comes to crossing the road or driving, they could not. And after praying with them, we discovered that she saw the an accident when she was young, an accident that she lost almost everybody closer to her. So the trauma was playing in her and controlling all her events. Yeah.
Thank you. PTSD is a real issue in society, and a lot of us don't talk about it. It's a silent battle. People learn to cope. People learn to live a day at a time. Which brings me to this question: what are some of the symptoms, maybe psychologically, emotionally, and physically, that you can look into and we can make people aware so that people can seek help? Because even some of the people are going through PTSD, some of them are not aware. Some of them have been in this society whereby people wanasema, ni kawaida tu, ni kujikaza. So what are some of these symptoms? What are some of these signs? I think they are classified emotionally, they are classified in the mind, and also physically. So with my able panelists here, you can guide us and discuss with that so that we can be aware that this is a battle and we need to face it, not only silently, but begin to speak about it. Karibuni.
Okay, thank you. For these symptoms of PTSD, we may not really say physical but we have symptoms that can be classified as avoidance symptoms. For example, the person who suffers PTSD will have, they avoid the situation that will place them where they were. For example, now, for people who have had accidents, they're driving, or they become too cautious, or they avoid the road where the accident happened, or when they reach there. So that is avoidance. And then we have these symptoms that are referred to as re-experiencing. So, and it's good Reverend talked about it, because he says when he looked at the memories, they all came back to him. So that is re-experiencing. And by that, I'm sorry, Reverend, because I really did not think that it would be a pity, honestly speaking. And that's why even as a counselor, you see, we sometimes ignore, because we think, Reverend is close to God, and God will. You are. And then you say God will sort you, So we also have those re-experiencing symptoms, especially if they are marked by anniversaries, they even become worse. And then we have cognition symptoms, which it's about now the mind. So someone has now irrational thoughts. Yeah, maybe you can find someone saying, it's because maybe God does not love me, that's why he had to allow the accident to happen. So things about the mind. And of course, mood. When they think about it, the mood changes. Please pick up.
Yes. I was agreeing with everything you're saying. Yeah, you talked about, re-experiencing what had happened. I would call it maybe flashbacks. Yes, for example, the road accidents that I was involved in, there was a screeching of brakes, then the bang, then we hit 5 vehicles. Yes. So for a long time, there's a time I was walking in town, then I had the screeching of brakes. My first thought, run off the road, yet I was on the pavement, so that by the time I look back, at least I'm inside a shop. Yes.
Yourself.
At times you're in bed, the flashbacks, you're in bed and there's a screeching of brakes that you hear. Yes. As there's also now what I called earlier, it changes your behavior. You become hypervigilant. And that's something I fight to date. Yes. And I am very attentive on the road. It depends on who is driving. Most times I would rather ask someone to let me drive because I feel I am safer. Yes. So that was the flashbacks. You re-experience what you had gone through. Then others change your behavior. Others, they'll sulk, they'll avoid that thing. The anniversaries, they remember, unakumbuka hiyo siku, this is what happened. So whenever that month, that period comes about, they always go back and re-experience it once again. And while at it again, you find that to some, because of that disorder, they'll mask it. They'll have hyperactivity. They'll so that they try to mask what they are going through. At the same time, inwardly, they're in turmoil, they are hurting. Yes.
Yeah. Another symptom is anxiety, where people are becoming more anxious. It's a progression of there is a traumatic event, and so that traumatic event could be instant, but then the consequences now are getting elongated. Apart from people living as though they are still going through that, is that they move on progressing. And some, much as what they have said, is that others get into other things if they want to escape out of that. Escapism is another symptom. So someone really wants to leave that topic, to leave that event, to leave that place, and so, or even to drink. I want to forget. Yeah. So there could be different depending on how a person is coming through that. So there could be so many. Depression is another one that comes as a result of that, because we are joining this traumatic stress, and that stress, there is some elasticity to it, and if it gets to breaking, that is it.
Thank you, Reverend Alan.
Please allow me just to add something before I forget what he has said. You see, these mental illnesses, it's rare that you find one illness occurring on its own. Like someone just has PTSD. Now, this PTSD has other issues. Like now what he has said, anxiety disorders, depression, not necessarily stress, but depression. And then we have substance use and abuse, alcohol use. So this, we have others. So you can imagine how much PTSD is bad, because it triggers other mental illnesses. So you are one person, but so many disorders within you. And then just to say something that came into my mind, you will know a person who has experienced PTSD mostly through their relationships and even how they handle work. If someone is employed, on how they handle themselves at work, it will really tell. And that's why you say maybe you say that this person does not know how to relate with people. But traumas, if someone has undergone a rape ordeal, a physical assault, a sexual assault, it will not be easy to relate with people. Yeah.
So some of these hostile people, we can classify them as they may be.
Yes, they may.
And people who are agitated.
People agitated, and there are some people who are too antisocial. These people keep to themselves. Unless you approach them, they will never approach you. They are always sulking. We can judge them as sulking, but not really. It's because of what they have gone through. No, it's PTSD. Yes.
Okay.
I would actually say, trauma is a wound. It's like an extreme impact in our brains to the level that it creates a wound. So when we extend it to a certain level, it means the wound is not healed. Anytime you meet somebody that has managed trauma, it is because the wound has been healed. So if I keep on remembering it, like the 3 days ago, as a person that I am aware, I discovered that the wound is not fully healed, but it is not as raw as it was in the beginning. Now, just like any other wound, one of the characteristic of the wound is you remember how that wound was inflicted. So there is a principle of semblance, whereby if the wound was inflicted with somebody like Reverend, any other Reverend can inflict the same wound to me. So meaning what? One of the symptoms you will know, if it was an accident, this person keeps on fearing that he will get the same accident with the same vehicle or the same kind of vehicle. Now he begins to protect himself from getting inflicted. Number two, trying to avoid a situation whereby that wound can be touched. And one of them is through how they went through, they got the trauma. I personally, I would say, I don't have that problem. I don't have that disorder. It hasn't gotten to that level. But I have some struggles. Personally, still have some struggles. And maybe what helps me is because I'm a pastor. I keep on handling people. And I have a way of dealing with them. But one of the symptoms, and it can even be known by a lay person. I was being driven from Goma in Congo to Kigali, Rwanda. And it was night. At some point, I almost dozed off. And I suddenly screamed. And the driver, because I'm a pastor is an executive, the driver is just to Mkono, was so scared. And when I woke up, he told me, what's wrong? I told him, I thought our car had rolled into the valley. He told me, Pastor, you were involved in an accident and you are not healed. That is a symptom. He saw what happened with me, and he saw that this person is struggling with this problem. Number two, I would not want to drive from here towards Kisumu, or from Kisumu towards this place. I can drive from here towards Nakuru or any other road, but I fear the road, the place where I got an accident. And if I get nearer that place, I freak a lot. Something like sleep attack begins to get into me. Now, that's another symptom. A person try to avoid the place of trauma. And then the other time I was driving with my son home, and I was so careful. I was going on 50 because I was feeling like the other time I was careless, I will be careless again and injure my child. So I walk with fear of hurting others because of what I went through. Now, as a pastor, one of the symptoms that I normally know is the avoidance. I found somebody that did not want to get married. And this person that did not want to get married, after speaking with them for a long time, they spoke of their rape ordeal when they were children. He said, I know when I get married, I will come to this level of pain that I did what? I experienced. As a pastor, I have counseled people who don't want to work with, who don't want to work with people of a specific gender because they went through a certain trauma at some point in their life. The wound did not heal. Because people tell you, you have to move on, you have to move on, you have to move on. I have stayed with people, they lost their father or they lost their mother. So they always live in fear that another person in the family will die. They keep on living in fear of losing somebody. It's like wanogojanga to report ya kifo. Even when the phone rings, they don't want to pick that phone. So you will just know that this one did not heal from that trauma. Personally, for 1 year after I thought I was healed, I discovered that if my wife gets with the car from home, I have to call like several times because I fear maybe she's going to get the same problem as my problem. If someone drives with my children, I have to keep on calling because I fear that they may go. So those are layman's way of identifying the symptoms. Yeah.
Okay. Then there's the issue of mistrust. It plays a bigger role. Then there's the issue, Kendia mentioned, of hyperactivity, pleasure in activities to mask the pain. And then there's the issue of loss of interest.
Yeah, disinterest. You become disinterest because life doesn't have any meaning anymore.
There are these people who sleep. During the day, they sleep. And then you judge them as lazy. Or you judge them as people who don't want to go out and do something.
Or
you just see an
also.
adult person sleeping up to 11 a.m. in the morning, and you're quick just to raise your voice or to gossip about him. And maybe this person is going through the battle. He doesn't have the courage to face what he's going through. Then at night, these people again don't sleep.
Like stress.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things society needs to understand. It's a battle we all face.
Even if I contribute also, maybe it can help somebody. Sometimes you discover people don't want to conceive children in marriage because they miscarried or they lost the first child. So they fear getting another child, and people keep on piling pressures and pressures upon them. Yet it was because of the trauma, what they went through in the first, maybe the first or previous pregnancy. Yeah.
Or even maybe the labor experience.
Yeah, labor experience, yeah.
Or post-birth. Yeah. That experience of becoming maybe a new mother, no help around, it can trigger PTSD.
It does
Yeah.
a lot in women, but you know, society tells you, Prayer, you have the baby.
And it's your work to
And
give
it's
birth.
your work to give birth.
Ama we si wa kwanza kuzaa.
Yeah, it's things like that. And you know,
One work of a woman is to give birth.
it is something that is hitting us across board. Whether
Yeah.
you're in touch, whether you're
It's
not
a
in
general
touch.
thing.
Yeah.
It's something that is biting society day in, day
Nice.
out. The issues to do with loneliness. You know that these people always feel lonely until you wonder. They're in a group, but they are very lonely. If you ask somebody something, so society is harsh towards PTSD. We can agree that. Which brings me to some of the things. We will just take a short break. Idogo, then we come back to the other thing. Thank you. We are back. We want to continue with PTSD as a silent battle with wonderful people here on board. I want to ask you to dig deeper. We've talked about signs. We've classified them: the moods, the emotions, the physical behavioral changes. Like Kendia says, is hypervigilant. It's very, very hypervigilant. So I want to ask some of the effects that PTSD can cause in a person and around that person. Because society, we always point fingers. We always point fingers. Even in church, you see somebody praying a lot or somebody crying a lot, and since we are in the dark, we really don't know what these people are going through. So what are some of the effects of PTSD?
Okay, let me highlight just two, the most common ones. A PTSD victim, let me call that, is very anxious. At any moment, there's some fear of the unknown. There's some fear of the unknown, fear of experiencing another trauma, fear of what is going to happen the next minute. And I think that is what you said is that is what causes insomnia or even oversleeping. There's a lot of mistrust. You mistrust people. You mistrust your ability of others to help you or to help you to help yourself or to help others. And you find I'm really glad because we have people who have experienced trauma. You find like a lady who has been raped. It's hard for them, again, even to enter into marriage. It will take a lot of prayers and a lot of counseling. So anxiety and of course we have substance abuse, alcohol use, abuse. There's a lot of that. But again, let me just demystify that for you to say that someone really has PTSD, those symptoms that they have to be devoid of alcohol and substance abuse, because now those ones they are issues on their own. So you cannot say that this person maybe they are having PTSD because they are abusing alcohol. You separate the trauma from alcohol and substance abuse. So that is just to demystify.
And one of the effects too is indulgence in risky behaviors. Yes, as there is someone I know, a client I had, a lady. She was raped while in university, while moving from a club to her house. And now, instead of withdrawing away from men, she tried normalizing that experience. She opened up to me and told me that she in the counseling session, out of the blue, It was something totally unrelated. She just suddenly said, "Sijui nani atanioa." Then, of course, digging into deep into that, she was like, "You know what? I've slept with more than 100 men." Yes. Then I asked her, "Is that why you're thinking you'll never get married?" Like, yeah, my criteria of having a good man. Then she said, of course, things I would not agree with. Of course, I would not judge her, but she said, "I have to sleep with him to know if, to know if he can qualify to be mine." So I asked her, "How many men approach you?" Like, very many. "Do you sleep with all of them?" Yeah. It's as a matter of fact. Now, she has reached a stage whereby she no longer saw the meaningfulness of marriage. Yes. So she indulges in that risky behavior. She would, any man, anywhere. And this is a pretty lady, so I was telling her, she has to deal with that experience that she went through. So that she has to, after dealing with it, is when she'll progress and do away with this risky behavior. That's one of the effects.
So
Yes.
there are people who normalize the situation.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and to add that is that it also, like, somebody gets into a kind of a bizarre doctrine of say God, or believes, believes, so that you tend to question, was it that God allowed it? Was it the will of God? Is God there? That kind of a thing. So it's like you have some bizarre doctrine, some bizarre belief about the very basic things that generally are believed. It is also mental. Some could get mental, and they may not. It's a mental disease, actually. Yeah, because it is stressful to the mind, stressful to the soul, and so sometimes someone goes off of the mind.
I would still say it is a wound in the mind. Actually, trauma.
Not in the heart.
No, not in the heart. Another name of trauma is the wound in the mind. That's another name that can be applied. Now, one of the things is guilt and self-condemnation and hate. You feel guilty that maybe you are careless or you didn't do things rightly to allow the thing to happen to you, and you feel like if you had done it in a different way, like you say, if I didn't drive my car at night, like you say, if I didn't go into that house, like you say, if I didn't trust that man, so you begin to blame yourself, and to some level you can hate yourself. You can begin to treat yourself as if you are a very bad person. Number two, I would also say, as you mentioned, disinterest in life. I was speaking with somebody recently, and that somebody was telling me nothing matters anymore. You come to a place and you conclude that there's nothing as special in this life anymore. Like this one attacks mostly people that have lost their loved ones. The disorder is, if my mother died, if my father died, if my child died, and they were this important, so nothing else matters anymore. So they begin to get careless and reckless with their lives. They stop working hard. They stop dressing well. They stop. Even some people stop going to work. They see no need of going for work. Even some people relocate. I saw somebody that relocated from the family and went to stay at the place of burial site where the loved one was buried. Nothing is important anymore. And then another thing I would also say, wrong decisions. You just make decisions that are not rational. People don't understand your decision. You can decide that I'm leaving Kericho now. I want to go and stay with my family back at home because I am feeling secure with them. I feel unsafe here. I want to leave this job and just to be staying at home because I feel my children are insecure. Like somebody that lost a child through a recklessness and carelessness of the house help. They normally leave their job and come and stay with them to take care of other children. So decisions that are not so much consistent with what we call normal. And that's why, as you are saying, people don't understand and they keep on judging them and pushing them to the brink. And sometimes as a result of this, because nobody understands you, you go for drugs and substance abuse. You go for others decided to run away and disappear. others decide to kill themselves because nobody understands them. So let me just do these funny things. Yeah.
And building on that, I'm sorry.
Yes, no,
You know,
go
it
ahead.
reminds me of also a client I had. She had twins and took the twins to a daycare. One of them choked on uji. And this lady quit her job. This lady ended up losing her marriage because she felt that her husband was not understanding her. Like, how can you be seated here? And we lost one child. How can you be going to work? And this happened. Yes. And she even asked me, how can you be talking to me? Do you really know? Have you ever gotten twins to lose one? You know, one of the effects could be family breakup because either partner, one significant other, could not be fully understanding what their partner is going through.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can maybe, when it is a couple, one of them normally heals faster than the other one. And then he begins to take things normally. Whereas the other one still struggles and feel that like the other, maybe the husband did not get as much pain and put as much importance to what we went through as myself.
Yes.
So the other one feels like this one is disinterested, does not understand me. They begin to seek attention. They become aggressive. Sometimes they even break the family. Yeah.
Even in family, when you lose a loved one, children are attached to their parents differently. So you'll find this what people can other siblings can heal and accept and move on, but one or two can be troublemakers. Instead of the family that is behind understanding, now they begin to say, kwani ni wewe peke yako ulipoteza.
All of us went through
All
this.
of us
Why
through
you
it.
alone?
Kaa ngumu kama wengine.
Yeah, and I think that is something society, that is what makes people who go through PTSD not speak up, because we easily you need to move on. Which brings me to two things that I would want the panel to discuss as effects. There's the issue of self-inflicting pain. Apart from normalizing, there are people who inflict pain. There are people who are numb out of the situation and begin to inflict pain. And the other issue that I want us to really highlight is emotional detachment. There are people who are just there. They are with God, they are with their spouses, they are with their children. So maybe we can say something about inflicting of pain, because I've seen people who have undergone PTSD. Some of them begin to starve, they don't eat. Some of them begin to inflict pain. Wanaanza kujiumiza. There are people who cut themselves. There are people who burn themselves. There are people who just want to go through pain. Yeah. What?
You see what Kendua said about normalizing. Someone exposing themselves to pain is methods of normalizing. I have gone through so much. I'm looking for more pain to make it even. That's why I am cutting myself. Let me starve myself even to death. I am looking for more pain to even the other pain that I went through. There's a certain appetite for more pain that begins to develop. Again, I would say, as you say, emotional detachment, like what I said about someone becoming disinterested. Nothing else matters. If this is what has happened, nothing else matters. Whether my wife loves me or no, I don't care. Whether my children want me or no, I don't care. Whether this job is kept or not, I don't care. I don't care attitude. I think I would.
Yes.
Yeah.
Others guilt trip themselves. They're like, if I enjoy life, how can I enjoy life and yet it happened?
Yeah.
So they want to remain where they were because they feel, for example, when there's a loss of a significant other, they don't want to enjoy life. They're like, if I enjoy it, what will people think? If I enjoy it, how can I enjoy it and I no longer have my significant other? So they don't want to grow.
Punish themselves.
They punish themselves. That is the why. Yes.
Let me talk about what you call inflicting pain, which is referred psychologically as self-harm. Now, self-harm is, first of all, you ask, is this person who is inflicting pain on themselves feeling the pain? Yes, they feel. Why are they doing that? Because it is a way of ventilating. For them, it is a channel to, to pass out the pain. It is actually a channel to pass. The pain is too much. The pain is too much. And while other people seek to go to their hobbies, this person self-harms. Self-harming occurs mostly when people are not supportive. The significant people are not supportive. They are not understanding. They are not even aware of what this person is going through. So you will find a person can cut themselves so deep. And then you wonder to yourself, what is this person actually? And it is very common, especially in the youth. adolescent teens, they really self-harm when they have this PTSD. They self-harm just to,
Is it a way of calling for attention?
no. Actually, the most common reason for self-harming is to relieve the pain, which people think it is attention seeking.
Okay.
Yes. And by the way,
Okay.
Yeah, continue. Then Vika will say something.
I think even we did not say this. We ignored that children don't experience PTSD. You see, children experience PTSD.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, maybe because of what they have gone through themselves or what their
have
close
seen.
people, yes, what their close people have seen.
Mm.
Now, allow me to still say something about the symptoms of PTSD in children. They regress. You can find a child now starts to bedwet again when they had finished that stage. You find a child has become too clingy to the caregiver when they were once very secure. They had this secure kind of attachment. So when you see a child has regressed to an earlier childhood behavior, then you know that there is a reason. You ask, I've had many parents saying, mbona huyu mtoto ameanza tena kukojoa kwa kitanda? That is a clear sign that there is something behind all this. And then the sad thing, and I think children undergo this PTSD, for them the experience is worse because we ignore. The sad thing is, we as now adults, we do not really care to know that this child has PTSD. I've seen parents punishing their children because of this regression, acting out. By the way, some form of violence in children could be a symptom of PTSD, what we refer to as acting out. So my message to parents is, it's not only us adults who should deal with our PTSD. Even the children, even words that you tell your children could be a source of PTSD. What the children go through in the hands of the caregivers could be a source of PTSD. When they start nail biting a lot, when they start a child who has started talking and then they go back, they cannot, as if they are learning again. That is a symptom of PTSD in children and even teenage.
Thank you.
And again, it may not be the D may not be there. Again, it may be a sign of a certain stress.
Yes.
But if they continue or it's just so suddenly, it's good to begin to check.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for bringing in the children. We were discussing about self-inflicting and emotional detachment. Thank you. Self-harm. Yeah.
Self-harm, which I wanted to add, it gets to even suicidal thoughts when a person, because you feel like you want to punish someone, and that someone may not be at your disposal to punish them. And so you get inward, introspect, and so you punish yourself by saying, okay, let me just leave so that, wafurahie, that kind of a thing. Yeah, self-harm.
Thank you.
Was straight.
Do you have anything to add on emotional detachment and self-harm? Yeah, thank you. So we continue. I want to hear from this panel some of the remedies, because this is a battle we all go through. But society, we are so busy. We are very busy. We wake up and we move on and move on and move on. So as we speak to people, this is a battle people are experiencing. What are some of the remedies that we can help somebody out here and help somebody in this show that we are privileged to handle? I think I'll go with the lady first.
Ladies first. Thank you. Now, these remedies, someone may be asking themselves, first of all, don't self-diagnose. Yeah, you could be thinking you have PTSD, but it's just something that is passing, but it's a storm that is just passing. So you need to seek real help from a professional so that you can really be told that you're PTSD or not. Secondly, the question, how can I help myself? If I'm PTSD, the first thing I should do is to set realistic goals. I should not be overambitious. I should just live now. I should learn to live in the power of now. As in, this is the only moment that I got. So you set realistic goals. Don't have too high targets, because they will give you pressure, and that pressure will trigger PTSD, right? And then, of course, would tell a person also to engage in exercises, those mindful practices. that they love. And as I remember others, yes.
Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. Yes, forgive yourself. Yes, when someone undergoing PTSD is so hard on themselves, they will not achieve the target that they desire. So take a day at a time, and without being hard on yourself, and open up. Yes, even whatever that thing you see so minute, so insignificant, you open up
You
to
know,
it.
sometimes you go to open up with someone nakwambia only that, hiyo tu.
Tunapita makubwa kukuliko. Yeah,
You know
it
that-
depends on whom you open up to. I would say, as a counselor, seek counseling. Yes.
Thank you.
And research has shown, by the way, that the most effective form of treatment or therapy for PTSD is seeking support. Seeking support from people around you who care about you, not anyone, because that is what is important. You seek support from people who care about you. And again, there's something, as a person with PTSD, you're supposed to inform people around you about your triggers. What can trigger this PTSD? If it is, for example, the way Reverend narrates the story about his accident, I think people now know. So even people who will travel with him in future know his triggers. So they will be able to handle him in a better way. Yes.
Like not driving at night with him. Yes.
I mean, have a strong belief in God, and especially when you get connected to a group, which is working with you. That's the opportunity to, for me, just look for a person, a counselor for that kind of a thing. Look for a pastor to help you through. Some of the issues could be pastoral. And be in a church where you can get some prayer and counseling, so that you are able to walk again. And so God is renewing you, and the world is full of stresses. That disorder needs to be managed, so that at the end of the day, one can be in good order.
Thank you. As I said, a wound in the mind, just like any other wounds, you need a treatment. And you always look for a treatment in the right place. Number one, I would say you can't force yourself to get healed. You have to go through a process of getting healed. And going through a process is, if you are actually you are fitting into what we have shared, and many other people have shared about that kind of a disorder, begin to make a decision and say, I really need help. I need support. What I can assure you is, you can never walk out of this disorder by yourself. Because why is it that the wound has extended? It's because you did not pour it out. How do we pour it out? By sharing it out and crying it before somebody. You know, if you're somebody has lost the loved one, and then you lock yourself in a room and cry, you will never be healed. But if you cry before people, you will be healed. You are pouring it before them, and your subconscious tells you that they have understood what I am going through. But if you do it in a room by yourself, nobody understands, so you keep on hitting yourself. So I would say, if you fit into these symptoms, myself, I've learned to be sincere with my challenges, and I have a million, and I always walk out of them strongly because I'm very sincere. You look for help. In the moment of my accident, after some time, and I discovered I had problem, I utilized my family a lot, and I utilized some friends a lot, apart from praying. I discovered praying only, when you have this kind of disorder, you will go into a deeper disorder, because prayer has a way of taking you into another world. But if you get somebody who can walk with you out of it, actually it's like walking with you out of it. It's like you invite somebody into your darkness, and then they hold your hands, and together you walk out of that darkness. So speak with somebody, look for a pastor, look for a counselor, people that are mature. If the first one disappoints you, go to the second one, to the third one, to 1,000 because healing, you need healing, and then you shall be healed. And God of all grace will also supply healing to your life. I think that's what I would say.
And maybe let me just add a minute. In for us as counselors now, if you come to us and you are really assessed that you have PTSD, what we advise, apart from the support system, is exposure therapy. This situation that you went through, for example, if it's an accident, we, of course, when it's not dangerous, this trauma, if it's not dangerous to your life again, like, Pastor, I would take you to drive along that road, like even 10 times, 10 times in a week. With time, that fear
And it's
goes
true,
away.
because at first I would not drive through that road completely. So after some point I would drive, and then when I get near Kapswait there, I would hand over the car. But now I drive, but I feel a little
Better.
I am tense, but I go through it.
Yeah.
When I was driving with my child, it was one of the toughest time, because I thought maybe something struck me. Suppose I go through that accident there with my child. Another thing, as you are saying, trying, I would not drive at night. I could drive so comfortably, but when night strikes like 7, something like sleep begins to attack me. But I tried slowly from my house to the shop, my house to the shop. Now I can do it, but not fully.
Yeah. So a lot of exposure. And by the way, again, this topic is very interesting, again, we advise the PTSD person that the change is not immediate, it is gradual. So you cannot just snap out. You expose yourself slowly by slowly. If it is a dangerous thing that you went through and you cannot expose yourself, write about it. Allow yourself to relive that moment. Imagine that moment again, because sometimes your cognitive has registered that moment in a wrong way. So we again cognitively restructure. We help you to cognitively restructure that moment.
And maybe you are helped to see that event rightly.
Exactly.
Sometimes we did not see it rightly. When you speak to somebody, they help you to see it rightly. They open your eyes to see it rightly and to appreciate it. Yeah.
Wow.
You said, write about it, sing about it, give a testimony. Yes, it will help you. Yes.
Yeah, and you can do
I like that. And also, when you're sharing with someone, you're free to cry. I recently went to a funeral, and somebody was telling the young man who is bereaved of the mother, the young man was crying, and he was being told, be strong. Being strong and being emotional are totally different. Yes. So he was being strong at the same time being emotional. So I was telling the people, let him experience the emotion.
How to be strong in a funeral of your loved one is to cry.
Yes.
That's how to be strong.
Yes.
To be weak in a funeral of your loved one is to pretend that you are not feeling anything.
That's how it is. When you cry, let it out. It will not be seen as a sign of weakness. Yes.
And there was this game that people used to advise you of throwing stones. Throwing stones.
Yeah.
Either in water or somewhere. Or hitting bottles.
Yes.
It is one way of you do an activity. You do an activity.
Even running.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Wonderful people, wonderful show. We are just about to wrap up because PTSD is wide. God will give us another opportunity to discuss how different cadres of people react to PTSD. Different, we call personalities. They react differently. God will give us time to delve deeper on PTSD as a topic on itself, but we just highlighted the silent battle. I would want to invite you to make your closing remarks as we wind this show. We begin again with the lady, then the counselor, then the pastor, and then the host of the show, Reverend Alan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you once again. I have 2 things to say. First, okay, 3. 1, you are not your trauma. You're not your trauma. You are a totally different entity. Number 2, one day in retrospect, that is our psychologist, Sigmund Freud, said that one day in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. So there's a reason why you are going through what you are going through. And thirdly, it's okay not to be okay.
That's been your slogan since COVID struck. Thank you.
Well said. In my finishing remarks, I would just say, this cloud will pass. Be optimistic. I always tell people, look on the brighter side. Tell yourself, one day I'll be fine. And surely that day will come. Begins in the mind. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Self-talk.
Yes, it has got an end. Everything which has a beginning has an end. And much as we talk about trauma becoming more longer and going through that, let us not short circuit pain. The pain will just come to a standstill at some point. And again, I want to emphasize on what the Word of God is saying. Yeah, Jesus saying, "Come unto me, all of you who are tired and carrying heavy loads." And the word is, "I'll give you rest."
Wow. Thank you.
And I would say that that wound needs healing. Make sure you look for a doctor. Make sure you go to the hospital, meaning look for people that can help you. And look for both professionals and the pastoral people that God has set for you, that they can help you out of it. Number two, I would say that there are so many hands that are wide open for your good, to receive you, to help you. Open up and share with somebody. And then number three, I would say, for those outside there, let us be vigilant and discover people that need our help and give them help. You are a hand of God to somebody and for somebody. Give them help and walk with them. Don't be too quick to judge. And if someone judges you, don't be too quick to be too hard on the one who is judging you. Because again, they may be going through the same thing as you are going through, or they may be ignorant. I speak to parents and I speak to family members, because when one of the family members find themselves in this situation, families don't know how to handle it. They always struggle because they are also affected. Please look for a pastor, look for a church, look for a counselor that you can trust, and involve them in this walk of your life. I know that God loves you so much. He says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, to give you a hope and a future, a plan to prosper you and not to harm you." And I know that God has a plan to help you in this season. And the Bible says that all things will work together for your good. Every time you handle a situation, it becomes your strength. We are working with you. We are praying with you. We will organize so that we can handle this topic in a longer way. And even in our snippets, we would want to handle this topic. So welcome on board and work with us. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Wonderful, wonderful men and women. We've had quite a good show. We have spoken out about PTSD, and it's a battle that we all face. We just give you an opportunity to walk through this show and also heal and become whole again. It has been interesting. Thank you so much, Janet Surum Kiplagat. Thank you so much, Mr. Kendio Bet. Thank you so much, Reverend Nicholas, SEK Belgood Parish. And thank you, our host, Reverend Alan Kiombe. We will continually having conversations. We enjoy this Friday conversation. I've been your presenter, Vivian Kibeu. See you next time, and we wish you well, and you will be whole again. Thank you.
Thank you.